Fantastic Heroes and Witchery, a retro RPG. This is by Dice of Men and Dominique Crouzet. It's a 412-page book. There's a front, and there's the back. And this is, as you can see right here, boop, boop, boop. This is an OSR game. It's a very good one at that. This has been a very difficult video for me to make. There's so much to hit on what the game does mechanically, how it's unique, how great the art is. Dominique is also a great artist too. It's got some cool art in there. And right here, I've turned right to a page, which really sets this game apart from other games. It's gone ahead and give you some rules for Swords and Planets, if you like John Carter of Mars or Flash Gordon. It's gone ahead and give you some science fiction type classes to go in the game, and that's pretty cool. It's a big game. It's very thorough. 666 spells, tons of classes, lots of races. Very thorough in its explanation of everything that might come up to the characters. If they're disabled, if they subdual damage, drunkenness, they're out of breath, they're catching on fire, avalanches, all the stuff that might happen to a character is in this game. It's very thorough. It doesn't have any monsters in it, and that's fine. No big deal. It pretty much tells you go download Ostrich, another clone of first edition D&D, and just use the monsters from that book and use the magic items from that book too, because it doesn't have those either. So it's weird in the fact that it's a big book, it's very thorough, but it doesn't have two main kind of ingredients that we normally are used to in this soup of a role-playing game clone. So what it's able to do is it's able to focus more on giving you classes, giving you races, giving you these options to do Dying Earth type adventures, Swords and Planets like I've talked about, and give you some technology. Now, it's not going to let you do like Blade Runner or Star Wars or stuff like that, but it's giving you some technology that you can use to do some of that type of post-apocalyptic, possibly, type adventuring. And it's very thorough with the rules. If you need something in the game that comes up, usually there's going to be a rule in here for it. And it's not laid out in a terrible way. It's actually laid out very well, especially the table of contents. And if you get the PDF that you actually have to buy, which I recommend, it's all hyperlinked. That's very easy. Like right here, I've got it. Boom, I've hit incapacitated unconsciousness. It goes right to that. The font that's used is great. There's tons of art in it. I can't say more about the art. It's exactly what I want to see in an OSR game. It's got a bunch to it. Here's a halfling folk champion right here. And I believe that's a Dominique. Yeah, he drew that too. So very cool he's able to draw it as well as to write it. And his writing is very easy to understand, very easy to let you know what's going on with it. And overall, it's just a complete package without being a complete package. It's kind of strange like that. But the reason that I enjoy Fantastic Heroes and Witchery, which originally I didn't really care for, I was kind of dumb when I read it originally, and I was kind of like, it's got ascending armor class. It's got both ascending and descending. It can't make up its mind there. It does have a single saving throw, which I enjoy, with classes and other things changing that saving throw based on whatever's happening to you, acid or poison or something like that. And I say, whoa, it's got a lot of classes. That might be a bit too much. But, there's part of me that enjoys lots of classes, and there's another part of me that enjoys just having a couple classes. I can play something like Swords and Wizardry White Box. It doesn't have very many. Or I could play a game like this that's got tons of them that you can choose from. And that's going to help players that, so a lot of people like choice. And this book gives you tons of different things to do and to either use or not use, which is, I think, very, very smart. It's got a different take on clerics, and it pretty much says, no, clerics don't cast spells. They have something else. They have prayers, the classes that are kind of like clerics. But then later on in the religion section, it says, well, if you don't like my choice for that, here's normal cleric that you can use, and here's the rules for that. And I think that's great. It gives you choices, it gives you options whether or not you want to use this new system. And it doesn't, stick its head in the sand and say, no, this is the only way that I'm going to write it, and this is the only way that you can do it. So it does give you, if you're not down with that, it gives you that in another section. It does some different things with hit points, which are kind of cool. It makes some hit points kind of matter when you go really low Never understood how someone had 60, let's say they've got 60 hit points, they take 59 points of damage, and they're right as rain. They're still attacking the same, killing the same. This game's got a little different mechanics when it comes to hit points to kind of changing that up. It uses a DC system with skills. Another thing that I kind of balked at. I was like, oh, here we go. This is another, you got a bunch of skills and a DC number 10, 15. And then I was like, I read it and I said, well, it's not a huge focus in the game. And that is a system that some people really enjoy. I don't mind it. And it's not done so heavy-handedly where it's completely what the game's all about. Um, and so I was able to be like, well, that's okay. That's not too bad. But it's just got very thorough rules. It's got chase rules that you normally don't see in an OSR game. So that's pretty cool. Chases in the wilderness, chases in the sea, chases in a dungeon or urban environment with tables and stuff. It's got some Jim Holloway art that's just fantastic. I'm going to show you a piece right here. So Jim Holloway right there. So just some great art all throughout it. It's got some public domain art in it too, which I'm a big fan of. It just really goes with the way that it's. Here's some right here. I'm certain this is public domain. And this guy here has had better days. He got a couple things poking in him. So that's really neat. But it's just very thorough, and I can't really explain it more. If you need the rules for drunkenness, it's got it in there. Slightly moderate drunk, and sometimes a lot of games don't have it. They don't have stuff like that. What happens if you get an arm cut off or a leg cut off? Starvation, thirst, holding one's breath, immediate suffocation or a slow suffocation. Now you might be like, well, it's got a bunch of rules, but no, it's there. You can see it. It's easily listed. And if you need it, you just go to this. You go to this section right here. Boom, slow suffocation. What's happening? Maybe they're in a chamber and the air's going away from the characters very slowly. Extreme heat and cold, catching on fire. And that's one of the things where I started looking through and I said, wow, this is actually pretty neat. It's got rules for glaciers, instant freezing, falling objects hitting you on top of the head. Not too many games have that. Not too many OSR games that I know have that. And so I just felt like, wow, I'm getting a really big game that's got a lot of stuff in it that I could use. It's going to come up. And now I've got something that's in the rules that's right there I can go to. And, this is how you do that. There's no monsters in the book, but it does give you some clergymen, fighting men, cultists, some stats for normal men, and thugs, brigands, and stuff like that. And if you need a monster, go use it from First Edition D&D. Use it from Basic D&D. Ostrich you can download. It's a free First Edition clone. It's got full of monsters and magic items, two things this game doesn't have. So what it does do is it gives you 666 spells. Some of them are 3 and 4 pages apiece. You can see how it's listed out here. 3 and 4 pages apiece. So it really crams it in there without taking up a lot of space. And I'm looking at you, DCC RPG book, which understandable. Those spells are quite thorough with what you roll, so it needs to take up a lot of space. But the DCC book majority of it is spells. And this is not that, even though it's a nice chunk of the book is spells. So in the back, it's got some appendices that are fantastic. And this is where you're going to change some stuff, alter some stuff, and do what those sections of a book is supposed to do, which kind of make it your own with some different options. One of the ones I think is fantastic is there's a random number. So let's say you've got a strength of, I'm just going to pick it up, a strength of 12. I've got a strength of 12. Well, if I'm doing something strength related and I need a number, I need something that's related to strength, but it's nothing I can just roll and say, okay, well, I did it. An option here would be such as how many feet or yards of a ditch have you excavated in an hour? So using strength, you can use this random number generator to say, okay, give me, for a 12 strength, give me a D8 roll. You roll a 6, okay, you did 6 feet of dirt in an hour based off your strength. And it's like that for every stat. Dexterity the same way. It could be a number of yards a character would walk on a slippery ledge before falling. And that's just an optional thing in the back that you can use. But I think that's actually pretty cool. There's also a maximum number. I need a maximum number for something. So maximum number of nearby falling objects a character could catch. If someone else throws up a bunch of balls or something like a juggler, how many is the maximum number of a character with that dexterity you could have. You could either roll it randomly or just take the maximum number. That's pretty cool. And that shows you that it's thinking outside the box. Dominique has thought outside the box on stuff that obviously has come up possibly in his games. And I will use that left and right there, because there's some stuff that you're just like, well, I don't know how many you would do. I'm going to just pull that out of my head, and you'll do this many. Well, here's something that you can kind of do, yourself. It's got a section on names for all the races and stuff. That's fun. Social origin, because you can have some social rules in there. Nobility, upper class, where you come from. There's rules for sanity and insanity. There's a list of all the skills that are in it. The appendix in these things in this book is fantastic. With tons of stuff. If you want to add to your game, okay? Doesn't say this is the main rules. Talents, which are in essence kind of like feats. You can add that to it if you want or not. There's combat schools, maybe fencing style, boxing style, archery style. You can add that to your game or not. And so it's just tons of stuff to add to it. And then at the end, there's a couple additional classes that he's added into it. It's almost as if he's created what he wanted and then said, well, maybe somebody wants this. I'll put that in there too for him, without getting too much bogged down or just way too, geez, this thing's just ridiculous with classes. And then it has adapting to first, second, and third edition D&D, how to change that over to Fantastic Heroes and Witchery. So that's pretty cool, a conversion thing that's in it. Again, like I said, some other character classes. And then it says, well, what about epic levels? What if you want to go even higher? It gives you that. It gives you how many, spells and stuff, maybe some of those higher epic level levels might have. Explains a little bit more about some saving throws, and separates all the spells into domains if you want to use domains. So it really is a kind of a Swiss Army knife of a lot of stuff that I think anybody can use in any game that they're playing. If you're playing Labyrinth Lord, or you're playing Swords and Wizardry, you're playing D&D, whatever edition, and you say, well, what are the rules for suffocation in a slow, like we're in a room and the air's going to go out. Fantastic Heroes and Witchery's got it in there. Let me grab that and let me use it. So it's a thorough game, and it's going to give you a lot of different stuff to mess with, some different genres, well put together, great art that's in it, and overall just a big value compared to some other games that might be out there. Cut away on some of the stuff if you don't like it. Add stuff if you want it to be a little bit more extreme, if you want to do some talents and combat styles. If you want to say, okay, I want to do kind of like the cleric, the different type of cleric that's in the game, but I'm going to use spheres instead of just picking white magic that it has in there. So it kind of just kind of changes and flows the way that you want it to play. We want to do a little bit of John Carter of Mars. We want to do a little bit of Flash Gordon. I'm going to play this type of character. And it's got the stuff in there. So you don't need to buy a couple of other books when you have this book. And that's enjoyable. That's good. So, it's Fantastic Heroes and Witchery. It originally wasn't going to be one of my top games. But it's one of those ones, as you keep reading it, you say, whoa, that's actually pretty neat. That's got some cool stuff in it. It's got rules that I need for really any game that I'm playing with. And it's a complete package without being a complete package. It's kind of strange in that way. Things like the chasing and all the different things that might happen to your character, the different classes, races. It's got, a lot of NPCs, the time it takes to make armor. I thought that was pretty neat. Like a plate mail might take 90 days to make plate mail. Makes sense to me. Some players, some people might throw that out. Some neat things in between some games, militias, priesthoods for hire, spellcasters for hire. So you can just see how thorough it is. It gives you a bunch of deities. It tells you about planes of existence. You don't get this in a lot of other games. So that's really where it's really where the big meat of it is. The afterlife, Again, tons of art within it. Spell schools, if you want to use spell schools, it explains you about those. And then it's got a section I thought was really neat. It's called Severe Sorcery. And this is where you can change up, it's optional, of course, where sorcery and magic is very powerful, very deadly, very evil, very chaotic, dealing with demonic forces. Um, Ley lines, power nexuses, and then it has a section on bloody sacrifices. So if you want to go there, it's in there. It's got psionics. It's got, like I said, and it's got a psionic class too, which is cool. But tons of spells. I really like the way that they're laid out. And you shouldn't need any more spells in this. I mean, 666 spells. That's a ton. That's a ton. And from what I can see, they're not trying to be crazy zangy just to get a number that's 666, the number of the beast. So yeah, that's Fantastic Heroes and Witchery. There's tons I could say about it, but what I want you to know is that you can be doing tons of stuff with this game, and that's ultimately what I like for my channel, is to tell you what you're going to be doing when you play this. You can do tons. You can do pirate stuff. You can do hunting down cults, barbarian. You can do kind of like a swashbuckler adventurer type of game. Again, the whole Swords and Planets thing really opens it up, and so it's versatile, and I think it's a must. The PDF alone is if you look through it, you can get the free one that doesn't have the table of contents or the table of spells. And I think you can see for yourself just what you're really getting with this game, and you're getting a lot. So I think this should be on many people's list, and I think you should check it out. So there it is, Fantastic Heroes and Witchery. I've got a couple other videos I'm going to be doing that are kind of surround this game, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks.